of the Historic Preservation Commission for Town of Bluffton. The Historic Preservation Commission will not hear news items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard by 9:30 p.m. may be continued to the next regular meeting or an additional meeting date as determined by the commission members. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall address the chairman and in speaking avoid disrespect to the commission, town staff, and other members of the meeting. Just state your name and address when speaking for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Elaine, I'm going to interrupt you and get roll call done real quick.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was doing the call to order and then that, but now I see it's.
Okay. When I call your name, please state here or present for the record. Bruce Trimber, Elaine Gallagher-Adams.
Here.
Jesse Solomon. Here. Josh Simpson. Here. Carrie Schmelter. Mary Vox-Bell. Here. Michael Lavecchio. Thank you.
Public comments. Okay, I did that. These are slightly numbered differently. Okay, adoption of the agenda. This is the agenda. We have a motion to accept the agenda as written. In favor of accepting the agenda for tonight, say aye. Aye. I'm now realizing how little I actually pay attention. Where's my gavel? Adoption of the minutes from last month's meeting on September 1st. Do we have any comments about the minutes? Any? Agenda as written. Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those of you who have comments pertaining to an agenda item before the commission this evening, you will have the opportunity to comment before the commission votes on the item. You are welcome to hold your comments until then or voice your comment at that time. Do we have any old business? New business? We have new business.
Ask that you speak into the mic if you have comment relating to the application. Okay, that is just fine as well. Commissioners, good evening for ducks, as my dad used to say. Tonight before us we have 2 applications. The first of the 2 applications is a request by Joe Frazier on behalf of CEH Real Estate Bluffton LLC for approval of a certificate of appropriateness demolition to allow a 546 square foot wood frame garage located at 1288 May River Road in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District to be demolished. It is in the neighborhood Core HD. Here, this is the property outlined in blue. Outlined in blue here. Promenade Street for your reference is here. Dr. Mellichamp runs across the top of the street with Bay River or Highway 46 at the bottom of the street. So this is the 4-way stop here. It is located in the Cardinal zoning district here, which is that neighborhood Core HD zoning district. I will not call it Crimson. Tonight, the application is, the survey for the site is here. So you can see again, this is May River Road running through the middle, and they have it highlighted on the screen here. This is the garage. This is not the primary structure, which is the structure that is visible from the street. I have labeled on here on either side, two different parcels though, are two contributing structures. There's 4 Calhoun Street, with Calhoun Street running here, and the red dot building, which is the one that most people are familiar with, on this corner here. So this structure is located well behind those structures, as well as well behind the primary structure on that central parcel. The existing conditions for the Coburn garage are shown on the screen here. So this is a bunch of photos of it, because it is very challenging to get in there and get photos of it without trees being in the way. Mr. Fraser provided a great selection of them for us. However, there's never going to be a shot where you can see the entirety of the structure. So here are some of the existing conditions. This is the entry view, so if you were to be looking at the front of it, this is what you would see. Again, this is not visible from May River Road, so you would be between the primary structure and the carriage house when you saw this elevation. The interior of it, you can see it's a block building with wood framing in the roof structure here. The other side of that structure inside, so you can see this even better with the cinder block here. This is the left side. There's one small window here. You can see the open rafters. With the rear of the structure, you can see the gable of the primary structure right there, beyond. And then the right side. Oh, there's the left side. Okay, so front, left, rear, and right. So the only elevations that have any fenestration on are the left side, which has the single window and the man door you can see here, as well as the, I can flip to it, entry side, which has the larger, I guess they're technically French doors that open up to allow a larger vehicle to go in. The staff report that you have all received via email and is in front of you tonight lays out those conditions which are found in section 3.18.3 of our Unified Development Ordinance for assessing an application for a certificate of appropriateness. Tonight we have Mr. Fraser here to speak on behalf of the application. It is the HPC's job to review those criteria and take action as they feel appropriate. They can approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff finds that it does meet the criteria in 318 and that the commission take action as they see appropriate. And I have some suggested motions here for if it does with condition or does not meet the criteria which are found in section 318.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance. Again, I just repeat for the record that this is a non-contributing structure, and so many of the criteria found in section 318 or 3. I apologize, I've got a typo all throughout the suggested motion, so when you make that, if you could not say 313.3, but rather 318.3. Many of those criteria are not applicable. I've got them pulled up here just for. So consistency with the Secretary for Historic Buildings, consistency with the Old Town Master Plan, which that one is applicable. However, as it is a non-contributing structure, the demolition of it has not been deemed as a contributing structure to the historic district. We did reach out to the 5 preservation groups on both of these applications tonight and did not receive comment on any of those besides word back from the Palmetto Bluff Conservancy and the Bluffton Township Black History Historical Preservation Society, who did not have any additional information on the application and did not object to its removal from the lot. The design standards are for new construction rather than for demolition, so it's not applicable. The nature and character of the surrounding property, it's generally not applicable to this application. The preservation of the building's historic character, again, it is not a contributing structure, so it is a structure that has not been deemed to have historic character by the town of Bluffton at this time. And then again, it would not be detrimental to the public interest. So it has not been added to the Historic Resource Survey as a contributing structure. And it is not a contributing structure. Do you have any questions for me or for the applicant?
Remind me when this was built.
This structure was built
I remember
in,
reading it, now I can't remember.
according to the tax records, which are as accurate as we can get with this structure, it was built in 1950. And just for the record, 613, thank you, Mike, you're joining us. Figured it wasn't water polo. No. While I say no, that is kind of a complicated question. It does not default to 1950 because a lot of times it defaults to 1776. That being said, when they do not know exactly, I find that they do put a number in there, and that number is sometimes a very rough estimate. It is a very rough estimate. That is all the information that we have. Yes, it was added as an accessory structure to the Beaufort County tax records. So at least in the time that it has been listed there, it's been an accessory structure for a garage. Have you speak into the microphone? I'm sorry, Mr. Fish, I know we've got you moving now, but just so that it's heard by anybody who's listening to the recording later.
I don't know what it is.
Side, yeah, now you can see that one.
They have not been submitted for, there has not been a demolition permit submitted yet because one cannot be submitted until a certificate of appropriateness is approved. However, it does have to go through building safety, and staff takes a look at it at that time to ensure that it's done in a sympathetic manner to the existing site.
Have a motion. All those in favor of the motion? Say
And just to clarify, Mike, did you abstain since you missed? Perfect. All right, thank you so much. We are going to have to take just a quick break for technical difficulties. They're working on that in the IT room, the IT domain over there. So just, if you could bear with us for just a moment, sorry.
I saw him come out of his cave and whisper. I
Yep.
figured- Facebook
Or
go
something.
down again.
The feed or something, correct. Second application we have before us tonight is directly across the street. It is another request for demolition. And for some reason in the last one, I did actually type the right number. The second application we have before us tonight is a request to allow the demolition of a non-contributing concrete block single-family home, wood-framed garage, and wood-framed shed structure, all located at 1289 May River Road. It is in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, and it is zoned that neighborhood core again. So this parcel is the one we discussed a moment ago, right across the street, and then this is the parcel that we are discussing now. You'll note that this parcel does run all the way from May River Road to Dr. Mellenchamp. However, the structures are located in the front half here, and you'll see that a little bit better on the site plan. But here it is again in that red color, neighborhood core zoning district. The three structures, so the little garage that was just reviewed is right here. Here's your red dot, here's May River Road, and then this is the shed, house, and garage. And I've referred to them as shed, house, and garage throughout because it's easier than listing out the entire name there. And then the second page of that survey shows the garage again, just with the other half of it. So this is the match line here. Oops. That falls under that house technically, so it is visible on both sheets, but it is the same structure.
House accessed.
Yeah.
Originally, there is actually a curb cut on May River Road. And if you walk down May River Road, you can kind of see it. As you walk past the promenade, there's a second little curb cut in here.
Able to drive down there, I remember that.
There's also the access that is for the back of the Gothi Road subdivision, which is that long subdivision of the very narrow and deep lots that run down the whole length there. So the existing construction conditions of this structure, this is the red house, so I've done it by size, I think, rather than by necessarily walking back the lot. So this is the middle structure of those three. It is the red house. You can see that it has seen some things over the years. So this is the front of the house. You can see that this portion of the roof is where it's been caved in. There's a refrigerator right here that you can see leaning over. And then this is the rear of the house. This is the shed addition that's to the rear that I spoke of in the staff report. So there are the 2/2 windows, and then there's the horizontal light windows that I mentioned in the staff report as well. So they're a little bit funky, but they are at the rear there, just on that one portion of the house. This is the right side of the house. And then we go into the shed. So this is the conditions of the shed. This is the front and left. So this is the front facing May River Road, the left side here. The suitcase for scale, I could not confirm if this is FDA approved for carry-on or if it has to be checked. However, this is the front and left there. Then that's kind of peeking in it, kind of.
Is that metal?
The siding,
Uh-huh.
and then this is the right side. It's in a little bit better shape. And then this is the garage structure, which is the furthest of the structures back on the lot. So it does have a two bay entry here. This is the left side of it. You can see that the roof is at an odd angle. It's caved in on a portion of it. This is the left side. The rear, which is in the best shape of all of them. And then the right side of it, where it looks like maybe a tree has come through that roof, and that's where that strange angle comes from on the front elevation. This application is reviewed by the same criteria as the previous application found in section 318.3 of our Unified Development Ordinance. Again, Mr. Frazier is here to speak on behalf of this application, and staff can answer any questions that you have. HPC is authorized to approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant if they find the criteria in section 318.3 are not met. I can scroll through any photos that you would like to see closer and answer any questions.
Does anyone know when when this home was last occupied? I mean, just curiosity, from a historic standpoint.
It has not been occupied since I've worked for the town, but that's only been 7 years, so.
Certainly grown up.
The shed has not even been identified on the Beaufort County tax records. However, the garage was identified as 1983, and the single-family structure was 1954, is what they've identified those as.
The house is not considered a contributing.
Given the fact that none of these structures are registered as contributing structures and salvaged or offer any contribution to historic preservation of our town.
Yeah, I agree. And the materials CMU, exposed CMU block, and then definitely not the garage and the shed.
I'd like to make a motion that this request for demolition of the 3 structures on the aforementioned address and certificate for application be approved as requested.
A second?
Aye.
Aye.
So much. The one thing that we just mention out loud every time is that the fire department does like to be contacted if there's any chance that they could take a look at these and maybe use them for training purposes. I know Richard Spruce, when you go for your building permit, will make the same comment. If there are any materials that you feel are worth saving, please feel free to let us know what those might be, and we can put you in touch with somebody who might be able to use them. If not, that is also okay. And then the final thing is that Doug Corcoran, if you brush hog the site and are able to either get photographs of the front of it or it is accessible, he said he would like to look at them to see if they're worth painting, but that is just a request. It is not a mandate by any means. So thank you for that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Have any discussion? Is that what this is?
Excuse me, the last item on the agenda really is for information and discussion if you'd like. Staff would like to let you, the commission, know that on October 19th, we are holding a workshop with Town Council to discuss several preservation-related items that are initiatives within our town strategic plan. And what we'd like to do tonight is give you an overview, and if you'd like to talk about any of them, I'd be happy to share more information. The first item would be the status of the Historic Resource Survey that was undertaken 2 years ago. We are working on finalizing that, and Glenn will provide more information. Glenn is also working on preservation incentives, financial incentives. We are hoping to establish a grant program, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, related to both the survey and the grant program are amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance. As you recall, last meeting, we talked about some terms that needed to be updated and definitions, and that does relate to the adoption or the acceptance of the Historic Resource Survey. Additionally, we will move forward a proactive preservation ordinance, basically a demolition by neglect ordinance. As you know, we've got some structures around town that really are in a shape that we probably need to intervene. We want to work with property owners to be able to stabilize those buildings and perhaps get them back into a state that they can be occupied. So we've been working on that, and we'll discuss that with Town Council. Additionally, at a workshop that we held last year, Town Council would also like us to look at the designation criteria for contributing structures. Right now, we have a little bit of redundancy, a lot of criteria, probably don't need quite that many, but we are looking at revising that as well. It'll probably be more in line of what is required by the National Park Service. So with that, let me turn it over to Glenn, and he'll talk about the Historic Resource Survey.
Good evening. So as you know, the Historic Resource Survey was started 2018. We received a final document back in 2019. The only thing that's left ahead of the project is our consultants, Brockington and Associates, are going to be speaking to Town Council at their regular Town Council meeting in November to offer their findings of what the survey produced. As you recall, this was to look at the underrepresented communities along the Buck Island, Simmonsville, and Goethe Road corridors. They also looked at the resources in Old Town Historic District to see if there was any potential for expanding of the National Register District. So Brockington will give their report at Town Council in November. And then we look to have the survey adopted by Town Council in December. And then it will be official. So that's the status of the Historic Resource Survey at the moment.
For the review of the survey with Town Council in November, what date was that?
October 9th.
Yeah, we're going to review it. I mean, October 19th is the Town Council workshop.
In November, where they kind of
November 9th. Yes. Okay. As far as the grant programs, we are drafting plans for 2 town-funded grant programs for contributing structures within the historic district. One is targeted towards nonprofit, institutional, or commercial entities to preserve their historic buildings. Funding from that is going to come from tax money. And then the second program we're looking at is for residential owners of contributing structures coming from general funds to help maintain their properties and deal with any issues that they might have. The goal is to prevent or to be more proactive in preservation and not to lose the structures, the contributing structures that we have. And this is another tool in the toolbox to help owners properly maintain their structures.
Are these based on financial need?
For the residential, yes, based on need.
Who would issue the grant for the, I mean, where would they go to apply for a grant?
They would come to the town. Either before you guys as the Historic Preservation Commission or through Town Council. We're working on the routes right now of how the paperwork will go through.
Assigned to their applications, or have you thought that far yet?
We're looking at right now a first come, first serve. We do have a scoring system. I have a mental score in my head right now of I have 12 potential high priority structures that if they wanted to come to us, they'll get first dibs. But there is going to be a scoring system.
On that, oh, sorry, I was just going to ask, on that front, if you have, will y'all be reaching out, like, to, once this,
Proactively reaching out to
proactively
those?
reaching out?
Some
or-
cases, yes, we will.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I think of one or two in particular, yes, we'll be reaching out.
Is there a budget that's been earmarked or discussed?
There's dollar amounts that have been thrown out there for discussion. I'm waiting for clarification from finance.
Stuck to the wall yet?
Not yet.
This is based on financial need, so to speak.
Right.
Is it going to be done in confidentiality? I mean, essentially, if you know the criteria and economic factors, and vote publicly or have that presented publicly is going to.
No, it's, that economic need is going to be confidential.
What piques my interest is additional information related to the process of demolition by neglect, the categorization of that, and once categorized or deemed fitting, what are the steps then outlined or being proposed as outlined to be taken by the town? Because in some instances, demolition by neglect end up with someone losing their property by the town stating that its historic importance supersedes that person's right to withhold the rights of that land.
Sure.
In my mind, that creates an extremely slippery slope when we're talking about opening up the opportunity for the town to take someone's property
Right.
simply because they can't afford to
Yeah,
fix it up.
that's not what this is about. And, you know, Charlotte will actually address more demolition by neglect or proactive preservation shortly. This is kind of like the first step to prevent that process from happening.
I'm happy to hear you say that. And what I look for and what I hope to see, you know, in the future, how that's better outlined and how there's an overlay between the grants that were just mentioned, demolition by neglect, and how they're tied together. And also, I would love to see how our tax dollars can come into play and it's not being taken from, say, funding to go towards, you know, the restoration of the homes and the structures that are important to the town.
Right.
But an actual budget is being earmarked and funds are being allocated directly for the sole use of this goal.
Right.
It would be extremely nice if persons involved had a budget to work with instead of having to go ask for funds on a case-by-case basis.
Right. I think that budget item is going to be coming through finance. I just don't have it yet.
Would be interesting balance to take that money from a fee that's associated with the building permitting, where the construction of new buildings would then start.
Something could be established that can provide long-term financial support for our all common goal here. There's been multiple conversations that have mentioned, you know, the Savannah Historic Society's funds that they have and the systems that they have in place to raise funds consistently to go out and purchase lands, not adversely possess lands through demolition by neglect, which some cities, towns, and municipalities have done and can do throughout our nation.
Right.
Did the town of Bluffton just do that? Oh, okay, that's right. That was.
Or was that was the, yeah, right?
the town has purchased also, several other structures over the years, but it's always been more of on a case by case. There was a possibility in the work that's being done now to establish a funnel, specifically new construction building permits and a percentage of that going towards this budget. Makes great sense.
Also an interesting thing that the federal government does, which is whenever the arts and entertainment industry wants to use a federal building, they pay a fee. That fee then comes back to all the federal historic buildings for preservation.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time till Hollywood discovers Bluffton. And
Right.
If they want to use our public spaces and close down our streets, that could be a really nice thing to do to funnel back to the community.
I'll see what I can do about that.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Sort of related to what you started to touch on, which is what's to stop the person who says, yeah, if I wait long enough, I can get if I let it go long enough, I'll just be able to get a grant.
Honestly, there's really nothing to prevent that at the moment. I can see that as a possibility, and we'll have to, think about that. I think part of the our challenge would be initially is to, communicate to the owner of the property, we're here to help you. This is going to be good for both of us. And I think if we have that conversation.
Oh, I think whoever would do that would think it is good for both.
Right.
But I can see, I have met people before who would probably sit on something for 10 years and just wait for it to start to look bad.
Theoretically, couldn't you put that in the rubric that there has to be some level of upkeep? I mean, even
Tempt.
well, yeah, I mean, you don't need to put a lot of money into some of the basic, maintenance and appearance things, and that could be part of the rubric is, the effort that's put in within the control of the person, because I'm assuming if they're going for a grant, it's going to be for a major project, obviously.
Not necessarily. It could be for something, in my view, something as, I just need to stabilize, my roof structure so that, it doesn't cave in on me in the next storm.
I could give you an example. Maybe 8, 9 years ago, I was working for a company that we performed the initial stabilization for the Garvey residence. In essence, we went in, installed cribbing and I-beams, and we kept the structure from falling down. We treated it for termites. In essence, we encapsulated it, treated it for termites, and we mothballed it, quote unquote. Like that's the case. That's a perfect example of, yes, this is an extremely important structure. We just need to keep it from getting worse until. That was
true preservation in the sense of the different levels of preservation. Where you have preservation. Oh God, it's been so long since I remember this. Preservation, rehabilitation. There were 3. Restoration. But first step is always preservation, right? So to what level these funds fund rehabilitation may be not so much there as much as preservation.
And this is one piece of the larger puzzle. I mean, there's other funding streams out there, other opportunities to get to that level too.
Tax credits here?
We do.
I should know that. I think I've asked that before.
This program will also probably bring to light these other resources that are, largely untapped by people that maybe not know of them otherwise.
Yeah, I think so.
What would prevent somebody from receiving grant money and then turn to do, whatever it would be, and then turning around and selling it? Are there?
I could offer a recommendation.
Yes.
I'm a part of a 501c3, and an applicant submits their application, and it has to be accompanied by proposals. And that the money that is approved, it's only paid to the contractor after the work's been done.
No, I just mean if somebody.
Value of the house goes up.
Maybe that's the purpose of it, though, right? Because otherwise,
that's a good point.
The next owner may not care. This person would care, want to shore it up, preserve it, sell the property in a state that would make that person say, "Oh, I probably shouldn't."
That's a good point.
My work, if I pay for somebody to go get training, I have them sign an understanding that they're gonna, and I know this is hard with financial implications, but they're gonna work for me for another year, or they're gonna pay that back, you know? So
Oh,
maybe there's
right.
like, you will remain owner of this house for 12 months, 16 months. And the other question is, and maybe this could kind of go back to what Elaine was saying, is maybe that grant shouldn't be 100% of the funding. Maybe they should have to put down 5 or 10%.
Yeah, these are going to be matching programs.
Oh, okay, just for, like I would say, good faith, because that would put them having a little financial stake in it, and once you have that in there, sometimes you're more committed to the
Right.
overall process.
Yeah, I'd like to have them have skin in the game.
Yeah.
Ideally, there's going to be instances where that's not possible.
Right.
So I think there needs to be kind of like the fail-safe that this structure it's going to get blown down in the next strong thunderstorm. We need to be able to come in and stabilize it and keep that from happening, because once it looks like this shed on the property that we just approved demolition on,
Right.
so if we could stabilize it, shore it up, without having to get matching contribution from an owner, line of not crossing of, I would never want to see us take somebody's property.
Right.
But I would also not want to see several structures in my mind fall during the next hurricane.
Right, and as I'm putting the program together, I want to have some flexibility that we can work with some of the unique situations that we might encounter.
Yeah, because you've got kind of a fuzzy line. If somebody wants to rehabilitate the building and reuse it, they do have state tax credits. They don't have federal necessarily, if it's not income producing. They do have state, although if they want to use the building at all and they don't have funds, then I'm not sure it's on the town of Bluffton to do that for them. But it could be on the town of Bluffton to preserve the building. I could see people having a hard time with if the town were to start
Right.
This plan and this program, not adverse possession, but maybe two paths. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we can assist you in the preservation of this structure, and this is what that path looks like with a matching contribution. This is what that scope looks like. This is what that budget looks like. Or we can purchase this land, we can purchase this from you on price or
essentially right of first refusal.
something along those lines. Does have possession of it, if it is done so in an amicable manner that all parties agree to.
Town sells it and makes a profit like everybody else in this town.
Kind of the
Interesting,
basis
yeah.
of Yellowstone. Does anyone watch Yellowstone? Nobody watches Yellowstone.
I started.
I don't get that.
I know you watch it, Katie, right? Dutton Ranch, right? Like, she's up on her pop culture, I know that.
I like the potential for this. It's something
Just
that's
started
needed.
binging it with one of my-
You have to just be real careful that it doesn't become redundant to other things that they can,
Right.
other options that they have.
Right. Okay,
Good.
great. Thank you very much.
I do want to add, with the proactive preservation program, the intent is to work collaboratively with the property owner on a preservation plan. And it may be a plan, whatever comes out of that plan based on whatever the condition of the structure's in. It could possibly take a year, it could take longer than that, and that will depend on the ability of the property owner, their financial ability to make the corrections that are needed to the property. So it will vary by property, and it will vary by income level as well. And we're working closely with the town attorney on this. We met last week. We've tweaked our ordinance a little bit. There will not be eminent domain. There will never, ever be a taking. I know that some communities do that. That's not what this is about. and that is a concern for council as well. So the intent is to work with the property owner for as long as necessary in order to get a structure back into a condition that's no longer deteriorating. It may be additionally stabilization, but we'll do what we can with our financial assistance that we have to offer. I do want to add also that we're looking at a Bailey Bill program, and that's a property tax abatement. City of Beaufort currently has one in place right now. I believe they also offer a tax abatement for school board, as well as for the county. Right now, we're focused only on the town of Bluffton abatement, just given the economy right now. We think it's wise to just offer a town abatement and perhaps at a later date pursue both the county and the school board. But we'd like to see that go through as just another tool in the toolbox that we can offer contributing structure owners. So that will move forward as well. That'll be part of the UDO. And the Planning Commission will hear that on October 27th, as well as the contributing structure designation and as well as the terms and definitions. So those three items are UDO amendments. The Bailey Bill is actually separate. That'll be part of our general code, so that doesn't have to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So again, just to recap, the meetings that are upcoming, October 19th at 5 p.m., that's the Town Council Workshop. October 27th is the Planning Commission for the UDO items. First reading of the amendments and the related presentation by Brockington on the Historic Resource Survey will be November 19th, and December 14th will be the final reading for the resolutions and the amendments. So everything, hopefully, if they move forward, will be adopted in December, and then the effective date will be January 2022, first day of January.
Get a list emailed with those dates and the meetings.
Sure, I'd be glad to.
One other thing that comes to mind, a lot of the homes that are in such bad condition, I know several that are heirs property. Does the town offer any resources to help owners, to help members of the families that are attached to these properties try to find resolution?
There is an organization out of Charleston that we refer property owners to or heirs to try to correct that situation. We don't offer ourselves anything, but we do make a referral.
The organization that you're referring to.
Isn't it illegal?
Yes. That organization has a legal team, and they have the bandwidth to be able to offer guidance. But a lot of the problems that I see these families running into is that there's not a clear title. So that if they wanted to take out a mortgage, or if they wanted to take out a loan for restoration or for preservation, they can't get a loan. We could, continue to pursue that, offering them a path to, just like a typical homeowner, take out a home equity line or capitalize on a piece of property that has zero debt, mortgage that to pay for restoration. They have equity, they have a ton of equity, they just can't access it.
Is there anything that can be done with some of those properties before they become heirs properties, when they're owned now by elderly people who may or may not have a will?
There are probably
Outreach that can be
I
done
think
to
as
just
we've
say,
seen, people who live there now are probably an heir and have just been living on, it's passed down, that the property may be passed down.
if it's a title issue from like 100 years ago, like we've seen a couple times, is there anything the town can do to help them with that before it becomes a big stinking issue?
That's something that we can look into.
The town's legal representation assists. We recently saw a document come before us that was, in essence, saying we have legitimized the sale of property pending no contest for X period of time. Like there's a narrow window to shoot the gap and transfer title of these properties. There's a way to do it. It costs a lot of money. Get everybody in one place. If you can't track down the 30 distant cousins that are all attached because of 2 generations before them, it's impossible. Unless you go that route of filing that type of legal format. The town can go a step further other than just recommending that group out of Charleston as their hands full.
I never really even thought about it, but I could imagine. I mean, we saw it last month, 2 months,
Right.
whenever it was. That house after the
Very complicated.
it is. And we've got elderly people now who are at the head of those families that
In the past, the Center for Heirs Property has come down to Bluffton and given a presentation. I feel like I'm missing a few years of my life because of 2020 and half of 2021, but I want to say it was about 4 years ago was the last time they were down here. They used to do it, I don't want to say fairly regularly, but they had done it a couple of times, and I think they were spaced about every 2 years or so, and so it may just be that 2020 has. But
tell from property records which ones are in that condition.
typically.
Do they get a personal invitation?
The last time they were in town, there was a press release for it, as well as it was published similar to other meeting notices, and I believe the Affordable Housing Committee also made it a point to at least make
Really
a statement,
elderly
and
person, they're
council
probably not
made a
on
statement.
Facebook. and-
Correct, but 4 years ago, that was the path I believe that they took. So there has been a couple of times where they've done workshops in the area. Since I've worked here again, I only have a
Well,
small frame.
law schools often look for things for the law students to do. That would be an interesting outreach for them to reach out to those property owners on the cusp of legal disaster.
That,
Difficult thing, like if my wife and I have 2 kids, if we pass away and we don't legally transfer our home to one of them, it's a 50-50. If they have 3 kids apiece and they don't legally transfer that title, now that house is split between those 6 kids. Those 6 kids have 2 kids apiece, and now you have a house that is split between 12 people.
Which is why you got to tell your kids they don't get
Yeah,
anything.
I'm selling this house, guys. This is
Watch
mom and
the-
dad's
I
retirement.
tell
We're
mine,
buying
you
both.
get nothing.
If you'd like to add to that, one of those 6 heirs can also sell their portion
Yes, to a stranger,
to a
right?
stranger, who then it can follow the same path, but on a different.
Once it gets to that point, unless you track all 12 people down and that person that was sold to, you buy them out, get everybody else to sign a document, sell it, unless you shoot that legal gap of non-contest. It's almost adverse possession. It's almost, it's finding somebody that's standing up tall enough and hiring a lawyer to say, I own this. Speak now or forever hold your peace, because I'm selling it to Jim. Once the transaction takes place, there's still a time period of others to come back and say, no.
family's legal bills were like $27,000 for tracking down the heirs. Packet, I think, but, I mean, it's not, it's a.
All righty, well, that's all I have, and I will send out the dates if you'd like to attend those meetings.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I believe we are getting ready to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Aye. We are done for the night.